I started the script in June, and I got a little sidetracked, but hopefully I can still get this out within a relevant time. Oh, I got a lot sidetracked. Am I the only one who liked the second season of The Last of Us? I know, I'm sorry. I picked the worst hill to die on because people might actually kill me for that, but it's true. The Last of Us games are my two favorite games of all time, and honestly, I like the second one a bit better. I think part 1 is the more perfect game, but part 2 aims higher, and while it might not hit the target 100%, I still think because it aimed higher, it ended up landing a bit higher ranking wise for me. Does that make sense? I also thought the second game would make a much better season of TV, and now that season 2 is out, I feel like I'm right. I really enjoyed season 2, but a lot of people really hate it. I think a lot of this hate comes from bigots who really hate that a woman is taking more of the lead or are really homophobic, but I can't count all the hate to that. There are legitimate criticisms that people have with this season, and I have them as well. The pacing is all over the place, it needed to be longer, and I feel like some of the writing really is under par. But overall, I thought the season was pretty good, except for one thing. Bella Ramsey. They're a horrible person. I can't believe they ever got a job. Ever. Oh my god. If you think this, respectfully, shut up. Just shut up. I think Bella Ramsey is a great Ellie. No, they don't really look a whole lot like Ellie, but neither does Isabella Mercer as Dina, or Gabrielle Luna as Tommy, or Rutina Wesley as Maria, and I've never heard anybody complain about them. Could the makeup department have done a better job making Bella Ramsey look like Ellie? Yes, especially with the hair. But Isabella Mercer has different hair than Dina, and no one's complaining about it. Why is there so much focus on specifically what Ellie looks like, and specifically her hair? If you are letting a haircut ruin the entire show for you, you have other problems. To me, Bella embodies the personality of Ellie, and that's what's important. Ellie is stubborn, a bit bratty, and makes bad jokes all the time. Bella Ramsey is stubborn, bratty, and makes bad jokes all the time. Could Bella Ramsey have been more angry like Ellie is in the game? Yes. There is some criticism to be had there, but that is not with Bella Ramsey as an actor, it's with the writers. What's worse is so many of these people were bullying Bella Ramsey online that they had to delete their social media. What are we doing? And I bet a lot of these people that are cyberbullying Bella and complaining that the show isn't close enough to the game are the people who didn't even like the game in the first place, because The Last of Us Part 2 is probably one of the most controversial games ever made. But suddenly these people are offended at every minor change that's happening. And I know I'm really animated right now, and I will be for this entire video, but if you legitimately have criticisms with this show, that is good. You should voice them. I do as well. This video is specifically for the people who are cyberbullying people online and producing a ridiculous amount of hate for this show, but can't really produce an actual reason why they don't like it. There is a difference between criticizing something and just hating on it. To be fair to a lot of these people that are hating, there are a lot of changes from the show to the game, but personally, I like most of these changes. If there are no changes whatsoever, what's the point of making the show? The games themselves are basically movies or shows with how good the graphics are and how cinematic they are, so if there are no changes, what would be the point of adapting them? As long as the changes are well executed and serve a purpose, I'm all for them. Changes need to enhance your experience watching the show, like replacing something that wouldn't work well in live action, not take away from the show. For example, take a look at Netflix's live-action remake of Avatar: The Last Airbender. In the show, they took out Sokka's whole arc of him being sexist, because we're in 2020... When did the show come out? 2023? We're in 2023 now. Sexism is a thing of the past. They didn't want to upset anybody. But that's not the point of the arc. Sokka's sexism is not something that's to be looked good upon. It's the exact opposite. Those first few episodes where Sokka is incredibly sexist, he is seen as a clown. Later in the show, he is the comic relief, but most of the time we're laughing along with him. The first few episodes, we are laughing at him. Sokka, being sexist, is unlikable. But then he is humiliated by a bunch of female warriors who are stronger than he is, and he has to take a look inside and purge the sexism out of him, and instead of them stooping down to his level, he has to raise himself up to their level so he can train with them. Not only is Sokka overcoming his sexism a great thing to show kids, but it can also lead to so many bigger conversations kids can have with their parents about sexism and why it's bad. By taking all of this out in the live action, you completely negate that entire conversation that could be had. Has our media literacy fallen so far that now even writers don't understand these very simple things? It's a bad change. Now, there is a good change in Netflix's Avatar, and that has to do with Uncle Iroh getting captured by Earth Kingdom soldiers. One of the soldiers that captures Iroh was directly affected by Iroh's siege of Ba Sing Se. Iroh is forced to confront this man whose brother he killed. This builds out Iroh's character a lot more in live action quicker than it does in the animation, because in the animation, Iroh doesn't even show real remorse for his actions until the finale of the show.
Who would have thought after all these years I'd return to the scene of my greatest military disgrace as a tourist?
He doesn't have to come to terms with it like he does in the live action. So good changes and bad changes can exist. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at The Last of Us Season 2 and going through the major changes to see if they're good or not, to see if all of these criticisms that, oh, the show doesn't follow the game close enough, has a valid point. I'm going to have some tallies popping up on the screen across the video. If I like the change and I think it adds something without taking anything away, it's going to go in the good column. If I don't know how I feel about a change, or if it adds something but simultaneously takes something else away, it'll be neutral. And if I think it just makes the show worse and takes something away from the game, it's going to go in the negative category. Is everyone ready? Let's begin. The Last of Us takes place 20 years into the zombie apocalypse. We play as a smuggler named Joel, whose only daughter, Sarah, was shot and killed by the military the night the apocalypse started. 20 years later, he is hired to get a 14-year-old girl named Ellie, who is immune to the zombie fungus, out of Boston. But when the rendezvous point they're supposed to meet at doesn't work, Joel and Ellie start a cross-country road trip together. Along the way, they form a special bond. If this game or show doesn't make you cry, you're probably not a human. The game ends in Salt Lake City, where they find the Fireflies, a rebel group that has the ability to make a cure from Ellie. They take her away to operate on, but Joel finds out that to make a cure, they have to kill her. So he goes on a killing spree and kills all the Fireflies to save her. He lies to her, saying that the Raiders killed everyone, and they would not be able to have made a cure anyway. The sequel takes place 5 years later, but that's not where the show starts. It starts with the surviving Fireflies right after Joel and Ellie leave Salt Lake. The group is led by Abby, and they're burying the ones who died. I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but major spoilers for both the game and Season 3 of the show that is in the works. If you haven't played the game and you're trying to follow along with the show, and you don't want to be spoiled what happens, this is probably not the best video for you. Go play the games, because I think they're well worth it, and then come back here and finish this video. This change of showing Abby burying the dead, I think is already a really good change. It adds motivation to Abby's character that we don't get until a lot later on. One of my biggest problems with the game is how Abby is presented. Near the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2, Abby kills Joel. The first half of the game after that is Ellie trying to track down Abby so she can kill Abby and get her revenge. The game doesn't even tell us why Abby does this until halfway through when we switch to play as her. So, the entire first half of the game tells us over and over again to hate Abby, because she killed Joel, the main character of the first game. When we switch to play as Abby, it sucks, because now we're playing this character that the game has told us to hate. In the 5 years since the game has come out, I have come around on Abby and actually really like and enjoy her character, but it shouldn't take 5 years to get a turnaround on her character. The game tries its best to humanize Abby, and through a couple of playthroughs, I think you really see that, but for a first or only time playing the game, it doesn't do enough to make you like Abby, because it tries to make you like her way too late. By adding this scene of showing Abby's motivation right at the beginning, it can make us feel a lot more sympathetic to Abby later down the line. After the opening scene with Abby, the show skips 4 years, which is a random change from 5. I don't really know why that is. I'm incredibly stupid. I checked like 3 times when I was recording if that information was correct. It's not. they skip 5 years in the show and 4 in the game. But I don't think that's important enough to talk about. The main story of the show starts one day earlier than in the game, which is another change that I really like. Because the day before the game starts is incredibly important to the story. In the game, we find out what happens the day before through character dialogue and eventually flashbacks a lot later into the game. This structure really works for a game, but I don't think it would as a show, so I like that they're showing it earlier, especially because the flashbacks wouldn't come until Season 3 in the first place, so we really need to show this now. We also get to see a lot more of Joel than we would originally. We get to see how much he means to Jackson as the head of their expansion efforts. We also get to see his relationship with Dina, which is great. Dina and Joel never interact in the game, so building out their relationship gives Dina a lot more reason to accompany Ellie on her mission. They also changed Dina's character quite a bit. They gave her a lot more personality and spunk. I think a lot of that falls just on Isabella Mercer and how charismatic she is as an actress.
I'm not like Superman.
I think this change to Dina's character is really good. Game Dina is alright, but she's a little bland. In the show, she just actually feels like a real person and not an NPC, and her relationship with Ellie, I think, is a lot closer and more intimate, which will eventually make what happens later in the show and in the game a lot more devastating. They also switch the patrol that Dina and Ellie do to the day before the game starts instead of the day the game actually takes place on. I think this is a net neutral change, but I really do like how they pay homage to the game with Ellie throwing a bottle to distract a zombie and her and Dina taking down the infected at the same time. This also lets us see Kat, a character that is talked about throughout the game but is never shown. This extra day also gives the writers a lot of time to build out Joel, especially with the scene with Gale, which is just a phenomenal scene overall. The first episode ends with the party scene, where Ellie and Dina kiss and Seth breaks them up, and it's just about 1-to-1 with the game, which is just awesome. The second episode deviates from the game a lot. It starts with Jesse waking up Ellie in a mirror scene to the game, but it quickly changes from there. Ellie does her morning patrol with Jesse, not Dina, because Dina is patrolling with Joel. In the game, Joel was patrolling with his brother Tommy. This means that Dina is the one with Joel when Abby finds and kills him. People really don't like this change because it means that Joel isn't with his brother when he dies, but I really like it because there's a purpose to it. In the show, Dina kind of takes Tommy's place. She is the one egging Ellie on to go to Seattle and kill Abby. Like I said, I like this change because it gives more personality to Dina and also gives an explanation why she accompanied Ellie to Seattle in the first place. Also, Tommy still does have a role in the show. He didn't just take Dina's place as being the boring one. He is not angry and vengeful, but instead wants to move on. He still supports Ellie, but he's also worried about her. This all makes sense since he has a kid in the show, something he doesn't have in the game. He is trying to be a father to Ellie before a brother to Joel, which is something that Joel probably would have wanted him to do. The scene where Abby tortures Joel is also a lot better, because once again, we just get more explanation for why she's doing what she's doing. Her dad was the doctor who was going to operate on Ellie that Joel killed to save her. Once again, something we don't learn until a lot later on in the game. Abby is still very angry and cold like she is in the game, but she's also a lot more emotional here, which I think will do a lot in terms of humanizing her when Season 3 eventually comes out. I also like Joel eventually just cutting Abby off from her monologue, because Joel would just never stand for a monologue like this. While we're on the topic of Abby, a lot of people are really upset that she's not super ripped like she is in the game, which is ironic because when the game came out, there was a hell of a lot of people really mad that she was super buff and not feminine. Because standards. I honestly just don't care. Abby being super jacked adds nothing to her character. It only affects the gameplay as she's a heavy character and not a light character. You know what I mean if you've played Last of Us No Return. The only thing it really does for the story is make her transformation after being captured by the Rattlers that much more shocking, but I don't think that's a thing that's super important, and I think there's other ways to get that point across without her having to be super buff. Another change about Abby is that her crew is cut down by 3. They remove the 3 that just aren't super important to the show of Nick, Jordan, and Leah, and honestly, I had to look over at my notes because I just don't remember those characters very much. They're not important. We don't even really see Nick and Leah much after the first scene with Jackson. The only one we really come across is Jordan, and I don't think his whole scene is very important, but we'll get to that in a bit. Because they're so unmemorable, cutting them out to streamline the show a little bit makes sense. The other big thing that's changed in episode 2 is the infected attacking Jackson. And I don't think anyone is arguing that this is a bad change. It's phenomenal. Not only is it just an awesome scene, but it also just feels so natural to the show, to the point where I'm surprised the game didn't do something like this, especially since in the game, Abby still has to run from a horde. The shot after the fight is over where the guy who was bit gives up his gun to get shot, goosebumps. In the third episode, we finally get to some changes that I don't like. It skips 3 months instead of Ellie setting out for Seattle within days of Joel being killed. As an effect of this, Ellie isn't as visibly depressed as she has in the game, but this does kind of pay off later when she flips a switch and becomes angry and vengeful against Nora. I will still chalk this up to a negative, and it is a very big negative because it takes away just how raw Ellie feels in the game. But once again, people are attacking Bella Ramsey for this, and this is a problem with the writers. Bella Ramsey is just an actor doing their job. The main plot of the third episode is Ellie trying to drum up the votes to send a party to Seattle where Abby is, since she is a part of the military group there called the Wolves. Ellie makes a whole speech lying to everyone as to why she wants to send this party, and then Seth makes a speech. But at the end of the day, the entire thing is pointless. Ellie fails to get the votes and she has to sneak out of Jackson anyway. It just feels like a ploy to extend the episode because they didn't know how to make this a full episode of TV, which is really weird because it's so slow and drawn out, where later in the season the pacing is way too quick. A second big negative for me. I do like how we get to see Dad Tommy come out here for a sec as he worries for Ellie and the path she's on. I'm really holding out judgment until season 3 about Tommy's character because we just don't get enough of him for me to properly come to an opinion on him in season 2. But this whole thing does make me really curious about how it's all going to shake out in the end. I made a short about this back when the show was still coming out, but I just don't see this version of Tommy being so upset that he, kind of pushes Ellie to go to Santa Barbara at the end of the game. And I also can't see this version of Dina, who seems so much more invested in killing Abby, leaving Ellie for trying to kill Abby. I just can't wait to see how it all shakes out, because part of me thinks that it's going to be Dina pushing Ellie to go to Santa Barbara at the end of the game, not Tommy, and so Ellie loses Tommy and not Dina. This would be a fascinating change if so, and I'm all for it, because it's really just Ellie losing another piece of Joel. At the end of the game, Ellie loses the ability to play guitar, the one thing that really connected her with Joel. If she loses Tommy, she not only loses this thing that connected her to Joel, but she loses the last part of Joel that's still alive within Tommy. I just think that would be really cool. In the episode, Dina pushes Ellie to leave Jackson, and they are helped by Seth. In the game, Tommy takes off by himself, and Maria lets Ellie and Dina go after him. I think this is a net neutral because I really like how it adds to Seth's redemption arc and shows that he actually wants to change and he's not just being forced to by Maria, but it also takes away Maria's blessing for letting them go in the first place. We also get a short scene that introduces the Seraphites, the Scars, and I have to be honest, I think this scene is really bad. In my opinion, it just paints the Scars in the wrong way. They seem peaceful, or at least not super dangerous. In the next scene, Dina and Ellie come across this group later, but they have all been killed by the WLF, painting them as victims, when in reality, they are just as bad, if not worse, than the Wolves. In the game, the first time we meet the Scars, it's horrifying. They are completely silent and incredibly dangerous killers, and honestly one of the scariest parts of the game for me, since I had no idea who they were or what was happening. We just don't get that in the show. Episode 4 starts with a backstory for Isaac, the leader of the Wolves. And I really like this change. It's a very good way to show how the Wolves take over Seattle, since we don't get the notes that tell us this like in the game. We get the iconic scene where Ellie sings Take On Me to Dina, and while it is a really sweet moment, it just doesn't hit as hard as in the game. At this part of the game, it opens up into a big open zone that you can explore at your own pace. The Take On Me scene is optional. You have to find the music store and make your way to the back room where the cutscene starts. The optional and hidden nature of this scene in the game makes it so much nicer, sweeter, and more intimate than in the show. That's not really a knock on the show, they just can't do it the same way. They cut out a huge section where their horse is blown up, R.I.P. Shimmer, and Ellie is captured by Jordan, and Dina has to save her. This cut makes sense, because this section of the game doesn't add anything to the overall story. The Last of Us Part 2 is still a game. and it needs big gameplay sections, not just cutscenes, which is really just what this is, another gameplay section. You don't need that in the show, so it makes sense that it's removed. So, Ellie and Dina head straight to the radio station. There, things progress like in the game. The wolves there have been strung up by the scars. More wolf soldiers show up, causing the duo to retreat into the subway, which was full of wolves and infected. The subway is one of my favorite levels in the game just because of how eerie the lighting is and how atmospheric it is. So to see the set created basically one-to-one in the show, it's just an awesome moment. While running from the infected, Ellie pushes herself in front of a zombie for Dina and gets bit. That's slightly different from the game where Dina's gas mask gets broken and Ellie sacrifices hers to give to Dina. Editing Noah here again. I'm so stupid. Like you can see in that clip, it's not Dina's gas mask that breaks, it's Ellie's, and Dina tries to sacrifice hers to Ellie. I know this, and I was just being really stupid when I recorded this, and I apologize. The reason they changed it is because in the game, the spores are a huge part that can infect you if you just breathe one breath in, but they haven't even been added to the show yet, which is more a criticism of Season 1 than it is anything else, so I'm not going to put it here. I just really wish they would have added it earlier. The two escape and take shelter in an abandoned theater where they have a big conversation. Ellie explains her whole being immune thing, and Dina admits that she is pregnant with her and Jesse's baby.
I'm gonna be a dad. Yeah.
How dare Ellie say this? This is a truly disgusting line and ruin the entire show for me, man. Like, go ahead, we need more tallies on the bad side. Give me more. Give me more. Come on. There we go. Go woke, go broke, man. The amount of people online that I've seen actually acting like that is just ridiculous. Literally, at least according to the people online, this singular sentence from Ellie was ruining the show for them. I don't understand it. I do. It's because they're homophobic, and transphobes need a reason to hate Bella Ramsey. I think that people think that this is a secret nod to Ellie being trans, which is just absurd. If you don't think that's true, ask yourself, would people have been this mad at this joke if Bella Ramsey wasn't non-binary? Just because Bella Ramsey is non-binary does not mean that Ellie is. Ellie is still a girl. Bella is playing a role, and that role is a girl. People also say that this line belittles Jesse as the father, but it's a joke. Ellie is not being serious. She does not actually think she is the father. Are you kidding me? There is no media literacy left in this world. We're all just so stupid. Let me explain. Let me draw it out for you. Maybe that will help you understand. Hello everybody, my name is Noah Hoffman, and this is a little segment I like to call Explain That Joke. Listen, jokes can be tough to get, right? What makes them funny? What is a joke? So today I'm here in MS Paint to explain why what Ellie said is exactly the opposite of what people think she said. We start our little diagram here with who else but Dina. Dina is pregnant. Who is she pregnant with? Jesse. Jesse is the father because they were in a loving relationship. So the baby is with Jesse. But that loving relationship stopped being so loving. So Dina broke up with Jesse. Then she gets together with Ellie. They are in a relationship. Once Ellie and Dina are in a relationship, Dina finds out that she's pregnant. Now, there's one big problem with this, right? Jesse is not in the picture. Not only are they not dating anymore, she thinks he's thousands of miles away, still in Jackson, while she is in Seattle. Now, in a traditional relationship, there is one man and one woman. Jesse is the man. Dina is the woman. The woman is the one who is pregnant. But now, Dina is in a non-traditional relationship with another woman, Ellie. Ellie cannot be the father because she is a woman. So, when making the joke saying, I'm going to be the dad, the punchline of the joke is that she is not the father is Jesse. That's what's supposed to be funny. She can't be the dad because she's a woman. She's a woman. Now, is this a super funny joke? No. It didn't even get a chuckle out of me, but that's who Ellie is. Ellie makes bad jokes in bad situations at bad times. That's what's part of what makes Ellie Ellie. So is this joke some sort of great grand joke that only the smartest people in the world can get and find funny? No, it's not. It's a bad joke. But is it insinuating that Ellie is actually a trans man? No. What are we talking about here? What am I doing? But anyway, apparently there's a lot of people who don't get this. And so using my awesome power of editing that's like level to my artistic abilities, I think I have come up with a solution and fixed the scene for people.
I'm gonna be a dad.
Wow. It's enough to make a grown man cry. There is another problem that people have with the scene, and on the surface, it makes a little more sense. But when you stop to think about it, I don't think it really does. In the game, Ellie gets very mad at Dina when Dina announces that she's pregnant. In the show, Ellie doesn't. But when you look at the context around Dina's reveal, it makes sense. In the game, Dina realized she was pregnant weeks before she got to Seattle. So not only was she lying and keeping this information from Ellie and how much of a burden she would be for Ellie on this trip, but she's also just unnecessarily putting the baby in a lot of danger. In the show, Dina finds out the same day she tells Ellie. They're already in Seattle. There's nothing more she could have done. This works because overall, the show is a bit less depressing than the game. I'm not going to put this on any tallies, I just think it's a fact. And my personal opinion is I like it because I think it's a lot harder to watch a super depressing show that has no light in it whatsoever than it is to play a super depressing game. And also, like I stated earlier, I think the show is leaning into Ellie and Dina not breaking up later down the line. I don't know, maybe I'll eat my words on that, but the two just seem to be in a much healthier relationship than they are in the game. Also, at this point in the show, they've just gone through a lot less stuff. They didn't do that entire section where their horse is killed and Ellie is captured, so they probably don't grasp the full extent of the wolves' reign and how dangerous they can be in this moment. I'm going to put Ellie not being mad at Dina as a good change because it gives us a dynamic we did not see in the show, and it makes sense considering the other changes surrounding it. So, yet another interesting bit about this specific scene is it's when Ellie and Dina get together as a couple. In the game, they got together back in Jackson. This is another change that I like. It gives the show time to build up Dina's character and her relationship with Ellie, so when they do get together, it's a lot more satisfying than it is in the game. This episode also gives us a second Isaac scene where he tortures a Scar. This is something very similar to a scene in the game, but that scene doesn't happen until the second half of the game. This scene, like the last one with Isaac, does a good job building up Isaac and give us more insight into the war between the Scars and the Wolves that we wouldn't get until Season 3 otherwise. Isaac appears more in only this half of the show than he does in the entirety of the game, which is a change I really like. Isaac is such an infamous villain played by a really big name actor in the show and in the game, and in the game he only shows up in 2 scenes. The one where he's introduced and the one that he dies in. So I really hope in Season 3 they continue to expand on his character. The next episode is Seattle Day 2. It opens up with Dina listening to a wolf radio they stole to figure out a good way to get to the hospital where they found out that Nora, one of Abby's crew, is. This brings up another point of contention that people have with this show, and unlike some of the other complaints that I just cast aside, I think this one has a lot of merit and deserves to be looked at. People say that Dina does too much in the show, and that Ellie is too stupid. If you think this, I can't personally fault you for this, but I personally kind of like it. This has a lot of merit, because I think it makes Ellie a little less serious, but it also does more to build out Ellie and Dina's relationship. So I'm gonna put it in a neutral tier, and I feel like people are gonna be really mad at that. And I'm not trying to like favor the show. I'm just really voicing my opinion. I just feel like my opinion is very much the minority. Part of the reason I like it is because it brings Ellie and Dina closer together. It fits into my theory that they're not going to break up and Dina's not going to leave in the end, but even if Dina does leave, I feel like it's going to hit so much harder than it does in the game. Like I said, I came into this season wanting and expecting changes, and even though by my own rules I can't put this change between Dina and Ellie's dynamic in the positive tier, I will at least put it in the neutral. Dina maps out the path they need to take and the two get underway. The two go into a big warehouse, but it's full of stalker infected and a big fight ensues. That climaxes with Jesse coming out of nowhere and saving the two. In the game, Ellie overhears a conversation about a trespasser on the Wolf radio and sets out alone to find this trespasser because she thinks it's Tommy, but it turns out that it's Jesse. Then they go back to the theater. This change really works, even though it cuts out the Street of Houses level, which is another one of my favorites in the game. It works because the game is kind of set up like fetch quests from here on out, with Ellie constantly leaving and coming back to the theater, and that just really wouldn't work for a show, so I think it's a good change. In the show, the three of them come across some scars hanging someone, and once again, this scene with the scars just doesn't hit as hard as it does in the game because Ellie's not alone, you're not isolated, she's with friends, and the scars were already portrayed as not as scary earlier on. Jesse takes Dina back to the theater, and Ellie goes on to the hospital. The hospital section goes about the same as the game, with Ellie beating information about where Abby is out of an infected Nora. This is where we really get to see how angry Ellie still is. Even though we don't personally get to see that as much, it's still there underneath the surface. Even though I personally don't like this change of Ellie being less angry, I still do think it makes sense since they skipped 3 months and not a couple days. But, like, I already put it in the negative category, so I'm not going to put another point in, but I just want people to know who might be really upset with me with this video. I'm on your side some of the time. Speaking of people that are probably angry with me, if you think I'm being too nice to this show, I'm not, because this next episode is where a whole lot of criticism comes in. It's the flashback episode, and I think just about every flashback is done worse than it is in the game. In the game, every day Ellie and Dina are in Seattle, we get a new flashback to years past with Joel and Ellie. This works in multiple ways. One, because it gives us a bit of levity in this incredibly dark show, and gives us some Joel, which we have all been craving since he's not really in the game. In the show, all the flashbacks are done in one singular episode, which I think really lessens the impact of them. The first flashback in the show is when Ellie burns her arm to cover up her infected bite, something that's not shown in the game. I like the flashback, but it doesn't really add or take away anything from the show. It just isn't something that we really needed to see. The second flashback is the same as the first one in the game, Joel taking Ellie to a science museum for her birthday. The third flashback is Joel catching Ellie with her girlfriend Kat giving Ellie a tattoo. Joel is really mad about this and tells Ellie she's just confused about dating Kat, and I do not like this. Joel being homophobic goes against who Joel is. Joel loves Ellie unconditionally. Yes, Joel's a bit old-fashioned, but I don't see Ellie being gay as something that would drive a wedge between the two of them. The second flashback in the game is the two fighting infected through a hotel, and then Joel doubling down on his Firefly lie. I get why this flashback wasn't in the show, because it's mostly gameplay, so it wouldn't translate super well. The big climactic flashback, I don't really like either. It's about Joel and Ellie going on a patrol when they come across Eugene, Gail's husband, and he's been bitten. Joel lies to Eugene, saying he will escort him back to camp so he can say goodbye to Gail, then shoots him in the back of the head.
I promise.
I think it's supposed to be a metaphor for how Joel has been lying to Ellie for all these years, but I just don't think we need a metaphor about Joel lying to explain Joel lying. The show's flashback where Joel admits he was lying takes place after the party where Ellie and Joel got into the big fight. Joel admits he was lying to Ellie after she pressures him to do so.
You lied to me. You looked me in the eyes, and you lied. And it was the same face. But I think I knew already. I knew this whole time.
Then this scene lines up with the flashback in the game, with Joel saying that if he could do it all over again with the same result, driving Ellie away, he would.
But if somehow I had a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
They talk about Dina, and Ellie decides to try and start forgiving Joel.
I don't think I can forgive you for this, but I would like to try.
I really don't like this scene's placement. In the game, this scene comes at the very end with Ellie and Abby's final fight. The placement of this flashback in the middle of this fight changed the entire dynamic of the game for me. The entire game, you're led to believe that Ellie is on this revenge mission because her final words to Joel were ones out of anger at the party. This final flashback reveals that's not the case. In fact, it's quite the opposite, because she just decided she was finally going to try and forgive him. This changes how I perceive Ellie in the entire game, because she's not just on this mission to grieve Joel, she's also grieving the relationship they could have had that they now never will. And that is what drives Ellie to let Abby go. This flashback makes a lot of people think that Ellie lets Abby go because she thinks it's what Joel would have wanted. And they think it's dumb because it's obviously not what Joel would have wanted. Joel would have just murdered Abby. But that's not how I see it. The way I see it is that Ellie lets Abby go because she takes that forgiveness that she was going to give to Joel and gives it to Abby instead, paying it forward even though Abby never would. By putting this scene so much earlier in the show than it was in the game, it takes away this perspective shift you get at the very end, and also it's going to make it a lot harder to explain why Ellie lets Abby go. I do not like this change at all. The 7th and final episode of the season starts with Ellie coming back to the theater. She couldn't get Nora to reveal Abby's exact location. She tells Dina everything Joel did, and they decide they need to go back to Jackson. Ellie and Jesse go back out into the city to find Tommy, because Jesse and Tommy came to Seattle together. The discussions that Ellie and Jesse have in the show are a lot better than the game. Don't get me wrong, I really like the game's dialogue, it's very good.
I mean, you're handsome and whatever, but I'm not into your type.
What, Asians?
Yeah, that's obviously what I meant.
But it just hits so much harder in the show. Ellie brings up that Jesse has an incredibly bright future in front of him, most likely being the next leader of Jackson. Jesse opens up about how he wanted to leave Jackson with a girl who was with a traveling group, but he couldn't leave because everyone expects him to be the next leader. He put duty before himself. This hits extremely hard because Jesse dies. He will never have that bright future that he was expected to have. He could have survived if he had given up everything for that traitor girl, but then Ellie and Dina would have been dead. He wouldn't have been able to come to their rescue against the stalkers. It's a lose-lose situation, and it's presented so well. Ellie and Jesse argue and split up, like in the game. Ellie to go after Abby, and Jesse to get Tommy. Ellie has realized that Abby is hiding in the Seattle Aquarium, and to get there, has to boat across the bay in a pretty identical scene to the game. A wave capsizes her boat, like in the game, but for some reason, instead of washing up near the aquarium, she washes up on Scar Island. She is captured and almost killed by them, but they let her go when alarm bells ring, so she leaves and goes to the aquarium.
The village.
The village! Leave her!
I have zero idea why this happens. It adds nothing. It makes zero sense. I think it's supposed to maybe foreshadow the war that's gonna be in season 3, but I don't really know for sure. I would put this change in the neutral column, but I watched the show with my dad, and my dad has never played the games. This side tangent really took him out of the finale and made him just confused. And so I'm gonna agree with him here and put it in the negative column. Ellie makes it to the aquarium and confronts Abby's friends, Owen and Mel, since Abby is not there. Owen tries to shoot Ellie, but she shoots him first. The shot goes through him and hits Mel behind him. Mel reveals that she's pregnant and asks Ellie to save the baby as she's dying, but Ellie can't do it. This is also different from the game, and a lot of people don't like it, but I love it. It somehow makes the situation both less and more effed up. In the game, Ellie straight up shoots Mel, then realizes she is pregnant, but doesn't try and fail to save the kid. In the show, she is less responsible for Mel's death since she never tried to shoot Mel, but in a way she's more responsible for the baby's death. In both, it's a horrible scene, done purposefully to show the innocent casualties of Ellie's rampage of revenge. And despite the criticisms that the show hits less hard than the game, I just disagree with this, and I think it hits just as well. The season ends the same as part 1 does of the game. Tommy and Jesse save Ellie from the aquarium. They go back to the theater and start packing for home, but Abby ambushes them and kills Jesse. She points the gun at Ellie, and the screen cuts to black as we hear a gunshot. We cut to Abby on Seattle, day 1, in the Wolf Base, setting up Abby's side of the story in Season 3, just like in the game. Side note here, as we come to the end, I'm a big NFL fan, and I personally think that the Seattle Seahawks stadium, Lumen Field, is one of the most underrated in the sport. So to see it captured so well here and transformed into this like mini city as the WLF's base is just awesome. I love it. So, in the end, I give the show 12 good changes, 7 neutral changes, and 9 bad changes. Unless I miscounted, in which case Editing Noah will correct me now. Fun fact, the only class I ever had to drop in high school was geometry the first time I took it because I'm just so incredibly bad at math, and apparently that includes simple addition because by my new counts, I have 15 good changes, 8 bad changes, and 5 neutral changes. I don't know what I was on when I was recording this because my original numbers are just so far off. But no matter what the numbers actually are, my final point still is the same. Obviously, that's not every change in the show, but I try to hit all the big ones I could, and it turns out the good outweigh the bad. But there are still quite a few bad ones. But that's my thesis, right? I think what's there is really good, but it could have been a lot better. And even though I like The Last of Us Season 2, I think the game is a lot better. I like and even encourage changes to the source material if it shows us something cool, unique, or new. But if you don't like that, I completely understand. I just wanted to make this video expressing my opinion because I feel like it's by far the minority opinion to have, at least compared to what I've seen online. Again, like I stated at the beginning of the video, if you genuinely disagree with me and have legit criticisms of this season, please leave them in the comments down below because I am open to anyone's opinion and I would love to see what got you to yours. But if you just hate this show just to hate it, this show that's completely optional, you don't have to watch it if you don't like it. Take some time to think about why you hate it. I feel like The Last of Us fandom has a lot of pretty sexist and homophobic fans, which I don't really understand. I feel like you're missing the point of the first season of the show and the game if you're sexist and homophobic. I feel like it's kind of like liking Star Wars but hating aliens. I feel like if this video does as well as my last couple have, there's going to be a lot of hate in the comments for me, and that's fine. I can take it. But if you are going to be sexist or homophobic or transphobic in my comment section, I will hide your account because part of being tolerant is intolerating intolerance. My goal is to foster a community where people can talk and have disagreements and be cordial to one another, right? I don't want people getting attacked based on their opinion or how they identify. Disagreements are normal, but we cannot let hatred win out in the end. So I will continue to make videos, and I will continue to love things or crap on things. But please know, as long as you're not a bigot, I'm not trying to attack you. I am trying to state my opinion, and I would love to hear yours. So, until I do this again, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. It was a lot of fun to make, even if I'm a little terrified of the comments section. But I meant everything I said. While I don't think either season of the show is better than the games, I think they're very good in their own sense. I feel like both seasons differ from the games around the same amount, so I'm not 100% sure why people are really mad at Season 2's, but there are criticisms to be had, like I keep saying. These games just mean so much to me and really got me into gaming in the first place, so I'm so happy that I finally got an excuse to talk about them. But if you like this video, consider watching my last video about different Netflix shows and how they all end horribly, or you can go watch my video on Star Wars Skeleton Crew and why I think it's extremely underrated. But until next time, Subscribe.